Super excited about this one. Before we get started to another episode of CMO Weekly, I have to give a big shout out to Open Fortune. Open Fortune flipped the fortune cookie on its head by giving marketers an ultimate Trojan horse in the marketing world. They're in 47,000 restaurants, reaching 99% of zip codes, taking over that fortune cookie you know and love with branded content on the back and your normal fortune on the front. Shout out to Open Fortune for making this possible. Welcome to CMO Weekly. Today, we're excited to have Kati Pratt, the Chief Marketing Officer for Purdue Global, join us. Kati's at the forefront of Purdue's global marketing efforts, where she leads brand strategy, marketing, market research, and digital experience, all with a sharp focus on driving student enrollment and strengthening the connection between Purdue Global and Purdue University. For over 5 years, Kati has been instrumental in shaping Purdue's brand. Most recently, she spearheaded the rebranding of Purdue Global, which launched in April 2023. But her impact doesn't stop there. Kati played a pivotal role in the launch of Purdue University's The Next Giant Leap brand platform in early 2020. When the COVID pandemic hit, she and her team quickly adapted, creating the Protect Purdue campaign, a vital initiative that enabled the safe reopening and ongoing operations of the university's campus. Under her leadership, Purdue's central marketing and communications team have garnered national recognition, with Purdue University ranking number 1 among U.S. public universities and number 9 worldwide in the 2024 to 2025 Global University Visibility Rankings. Before her impactful work at Purdue, Kati had various marketing roles across industries, including banking, retail, healthcare, and manufacturing. She's a proud grad of Purdue University's Brian Lamb School of Communications and holds a Master's of Science in Integrated Marketing Communication from West Virginia University. Kati's also got 2 dogs. I have 2 dogs. She's got a remarkable career. I'm working on my career. I got to ask you, Kati, how did you navigate this space to become a leader in marketing?
So it's funny, like if I take a step back, when I was first going into college and decided to go to Purdue, I thought I was going to be an accountant. So I thought I was going to be a CPA. And then I decided as I got into it that really managerial and financial accounting wasn't where I saw my future.
Was when you were growing up,
yeah.
Did you want to be an accountant? Was that
No, I wanted to be Matlock when I was a kid.
Matlock.
So you're familiar with 1980s? Yeah. Lawyer, gray suit, a hot dog,
nice.
Solve the case. So I thought I was going to be an attorney. I thought I was going to go to college and then I was going to go to law school, because I thought that, and what I think I really liked about that show, or what I liked about what I thought the law was getting to present a case and have a stage.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's like a show.
Right. And you get to perform, right? And you get to catch the bad guy at the end of the day. And then I did some research.
Real life superhero.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Not all heroes wear capes. Sometimes they wear suits.
Exactly.
And sometimes they're gray. And so I started researching, what does it actually take to go to law school? And what do lawyers actually do?
You quickly found out.
It's no, I don't think that that's for me. And so then I decided, all right, when I go to school, I thought, then I'm well, maybe I'll be a history major, because I really liked history. My mom was like, no, you're not going to get a job.
Yeah, it's fun to learn about.
It's fun to learn about, but you're not going to get a job. So I thought I was really good at accounting. I thought, well, I'll go and I'll become a CPA. So that's when I started. So my first 2 years of undergrad were really focused on accounting. And there were parts of that I liked. Calculus I did not enjoy. And then I got to looking at that, and then also kind of starting to think, at the end of my sophomore year, what do I want to do next, after graduation?
Sure.
So I pivoted to communications, to a liberal arts degree, primarily because of the breadth of offerings that I was able to take. So I'm curious in a lot of different areas, and so I was able to focus it. So I was able to do that. And then actually coming out of graduation, I wasn't sure what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. And so I applied to a bunch of different positions. And I was fortunate enough to get a position right out of school with a company that was based at the time in Lafayette, so just across the river from where Purdue is, and in their marketing department, and they had a worldwide presence. And so they did a lot of trade shows. And so I got to travel for them. And so then I got to kind of understand what marketing was, and understanding the consumer. And so from there, I was okay, I like this. And so what else do I need to do? What else do I need to learn? And that's what then made me pursue my master's degree, because I'm I need to go a little deeper.
Sure.
I
got to ask you too. I feel so when I ask guests about their, college they went to and their career, I usually don't ask them why they picked their college, but just because of the college marketing angle, I have to ask, what did Purdue's marketing look like when you were applying?
Oh my gosh. I don't even remember it, so it wasn't memorable. So let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. And compare, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but
Yeah.
Was there a main reason Purdue spoke to you? Was it?
I think Purdue, as much as, now, I love it and I bleed old gold and black, it was the right majors. It was the
Sure.
right close to home. It just kind of fit a lot of those boxes that I was looking for at that time in my life. And because I was the first person in my family to go to college, a traditional 4-year. My mom went back to school in nights and weekends and graduated actually with her bachelor's degree my senior year of high school. So I was kind of the first one in the family navigating this process of what does this mean, and growing up in Indiana, and I grew up about 30 minutes away from Purdue.
Okay, cool.
So I had a familiarity there.
Amazing.
Also, the other side of my family were big other universities within the state of Indiana that you can guess fans. So it was kind of a nice jab to go to Purdue too. That was kind of fun.
Amazing. So I have to ask as well, you get that taste of marketing. What made you want to double down on that? And when did you realize that, I like this, but I'm also pretty good at it?
So a couple things. One is that I'm an individual that gets bored easily, especially in jobs. So if it's a data entry, if it's repetitive things,
I'm the same way.
Bore me.
Yeah.
And so what I like about marketing is no 2 days are the same, and I get a little bit of here and there. I also, because of the part of me that really did appeal to the accounting, marketing is, that art and science, right? That pure, that balance of having both. And so I think that helped me. And I was okay, I love a pivot table. I can do this in a pivot table, but then I can also sell it to a board.
Yep.
And so then I wanted to make sure that I kind of honed those skills so that I had that that extra layer of credibility.
Absolutely. And what of your first jobs really taught you the most and gave you the most kind of background to become the CMO you are today outside of Purdue?
Outside of Purdue. So I worked for a small, a family-owned business in, trying to think, years don't matter anymore, mid-2000s, and they were based in Peoria, Illinois, so we lived in Peoria, so it's called Sherman's, and they still exist today, and they're thriving, and they have 3 retail locations, and at the time, they sold furniture, electronics, mattresses, and appliances, and I got to work directly with the owners, and so I created the job. I originated the position.
Mr. and Mrs. Sherman.
Yeah. Well, their son, he was kind of the next, they kind of retired off in Florida, and so, I had the opportunity to work directly with the general manager at the time, and so my whole job was crafted off of taking things off of his plate, and so I got to wear multiple hats. So I bought the media, I wrote the ad copy.
Yeah. Really getting your hands dirty.
I assessed if it worked, and we got to do a lot of I don't know if you're familiar with. Have you ever heard of the Wizard of Ads?
No.
Based in Austin, Texas. So Roy Williams is a former radio guy, marketer. He has this campus called Wizard Academy. He has a series of books he wrote, I think, in the 90s, and we got to go there, and it's your alternative business school.
Okay.
And different class, and they would bring in speakers from Amazon and different individuals and they would have purple coffee, aka wine, at 8 a.m. If anybody, it was very open, and you would just learn. It kind of expanded your mind. They really talked about, I think one of the speakers today even spoke about the neuroscience of it, with Broca's area, and how do you penetrate 3 gravitating bodies. So we really, that to me really got my interest going there.
Very, very cool.
So that was kind of and it was in that job that I then decided to go back and get my master's degree. Yeah. Sure. I think it, like so many things, it depends on the individual and what they want to be. I'm a believer that for me, what worked best is I got my bachelor's degree. I got out into the work a little bit. I worked for about 4 or 5 years. And then I decided, you know what? I do need this extra level of accreditation, of validation, learning. And I knew like, and then the jobs I was looking at, like, so taking like that next step in my career at the time, like to be like a director of marketing and like to take required a master's, like all of them required I think that that's changing a little bit today. And so I did it, and it paid off very well for me. Not only for just exposing like to new ideas, which I never think learning is a bad thing. So like,
I mean, you work at one of the greatest universities, right?
Right, exactly. Like I'm an education marketer, but also like I just believe education is foundational. Like so, no matter what happens to you, education, like and what can never be taken away, and you can apply it somewhere else. It's very transferable.
Absolutely. I want to talk about Purdue as well, and something that I find super fascinating about y'all is that we're at Brand Week right now.
Yeah.
There's some of the greatest CMOs from MasterCard to representing, Delta. And you look around and there's not a ton of colleges here, right? I don't know. Purdue might be the only one. There might be one or two that I'm missing, so I apologize if there are. But, I've been to this conference last year and the year before, and Purdue has always brought an onslaught of people. What about the culture of Purdue makes it so important to like keep educating yourself on this, just being out there and just being successful marketers and learning from these other brands?
I think, one thing that we always look at is like there's always a bigger bear. And so we want to learn from like those that are doing it bigger, better, differently than we are. And I think we have to get out of our industry to be able to do that. So, and to get those learnings. I think answer your question on like kind of like what's core to Purdue is that ethos, like we want to go first. We're not afraid to like jump in. We want to be risk takers. I will say like strategically, risk takers. But we also like the moment you start feeling like you're great is when you start to fall off, and so like we keep that very front of mind. And so we want to keep learning. And I think being able to have the opportunity to bring team members to things like Brand Week and like hear from those other CMOs, like and what they bring back and energize the team like with new ideas. Because even after last year, we came back and we're like, okay, well, how do we do more brand partnerships and experiential activations? Like there are things like that we like to bring back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And when you talk about just like educating these individuals and picking them, talk about a little bit about your leadership style as the CMO.
My leadership style is I have a kind of like that people first mentality of I want to make sure that we have the right people in the right roles and that they're set up like and empowered to own their vertical, like to own their expertise. Like I do not want to have to tell you how to do your job. I want to say like, here's what we're trying to go for. And I want like, you tell me, you come back to me and tell me what's the best way, because you're going to think differently than I am. And I want those different perspectives around. And so that's what we try to cultivate. And I think we, as one of the things that I'm constantly thinking about with my team is what do they need to know? Like, what are gaps? And like, are there different trainings, things that we need to do? And then also like, are they in the right spot, right? Like, do we have them placed correctly? Or are we missing some of their impact? Like, should we put their impact like over here? And I think that changes over time, like as the business needs change.
Totally. And you spoke about it before, but getting out of your own zone, right? Yeah. College marketers are doing things differently than Pepsi is doing. And I think I've been studying college marketers. Actually, I've had a bunch of them on. And, I think I've heard this from them that the industry is like some is very stale, right?
Yeah.
And I could see that being at the college marketing conference in AMA. And you talk about just being first. What's an example of Purdue being first from a strategic initiative that you're proud of?
So in terms of like going first, one of the things that I'm proud of, like for Purdue, especially related to like what else is going on in the higher ed space, is really starting to lean into YouTube in terms of like paid digital and paid ads. That may not be something that's new to a lot of like these individuals here at Brand Week, but for higher ed, like they have been such, print focused, like understanding like, and really being like where our students are, like where our end customers are. And that has been a game changer for us. And like we developed we call it our paid center of excellence, like our own paid team that's like kind of watching trends. And then from that, we've grown it to where it's not only gone paid, but like what are those like activation experiences? So I have to give a couple shout outs like to some team members. Like, so we had the solar eclipse in the Midwest in 2024. Yeah. And so our team, shout out to Katie Ellis, like brought this great idea, like to partner with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to like host the event because Indianapolis was in the path of totality. And so like to really take advantage of that, because it's not really like we would think like a higher ed brand would be, but like with space and like our Cradle of Astronauts, it was a great like tie-in directly. And I believe like that event, and then we had all the major networks there, and the timing was great. Purdue was also in the Final Four.
Yep.
That day. I was here. Actually, I was in Phoenix.
There you go.
And they got over like 1 billion with a B impression, like earned media like impressions from all that. Like, and so like just being able to like take advantage of like those moments.
When you're doing something super out there and fun and you know it will probably pay off, but is a risk, right? How do you define success going into that? Totally. Yeah. And I think y'all do a really good job with brand awareness as well, especially where people are going so hard into digital and spending all their money there. How do you, I know defining success is hard there, but how do you go about making the right decisions on like, this is how much we're in the beginning of the year, this is how much we're putting in brand, this is how much we're putting in performance, etc. How do those conversations even come about?
Well, it's a timely question, especially with respect to Purdue Global, because we are kind of going through that right now. So as you read in my intro, we relaunched the Purdue Global brand in around April of 2023, April 3rd, I believe. And so at that time, going into that, Purdue Global sat with like 0% unaided brand awareness. So marketers out there, like, that's not a great place to be, but you know, there's opportunity there because there's nowhere to go but up.
Yep.
And so we really looked at our mix. And so at the time, like, we really shifted heavily from like the bottom of the funnel, like into more like awareness building, like video content, like really trying to make that emotional connection with our consumers. And so about 8 months in, we redid that, reassessed our brand awareness, and we went from 0% to 11% unaided brand awareness in like 8 months.
That's amazing.
So that was huge. So like that doesn't mean that like our mix was correct, like to your point, but that gave us like the fuel to say, okay, we're on the right track, right? And so like let's work together like with our agency, like what are those right levers to hit for within branding.
And with Purdue Global being its own entity, right? And Purdue University being your stereotypical university, right? Basis. What you talked about it before, but you really need to understand like what your value prop is conveying to your consumer. What does that Purdue Global consumer, student per se, care about, and how are you portraying that within your marketing materials?
Yeah, absolutely. So Purdue Global, so we say like Purdue Global is for working adults with life experience and often some college credit, but no degree. So what does that mean? So our Purdue Global students, about 60% are over the age of 30. About a third of them have like some type of military affiliation. So our students are older, like they have a dependent, usually about half. And sometimes like they started college maybe at 18, wasn't the right fit, decided, nope, I don't want to go back. I don't want to finish this, and like got into the workforce, and then they get to a place in their life. And we partnered with a company called Brand Trust based in Chicago to do some really deep like emotional inquiry insights on like what do they care about. And there were 3 main insights that came out of that we kind of really used to fuel our brand essence, like in our platform. And that's number 1 is like they want a degree that's of value, that like it's legitimate, that like that, you know, they can take home to mom and dad and they can say like, this is, you know, Purdue Global, like I had to earn it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's not just a pay for.
It's just not a pay. Yeah, it's not.
One thing I want to talk about is just the Olympic partnership that you had. I thought it was absolutely amazing with Guild and Team USA. How did that come about, and why was that such a success?
So that started, I think the contract conversation started a while ago, and it really came to fruition in April, like was when it was announced. So Purdue Global is the official degree granting partner of the Guild and Team USA Learning Network, is like our official line. And so what that means is, so Team USA has partnered with Guild, and they really want to provide a educational benefit to their Team USA athletes and hopefuls going back, I believe, the last 10 years, and that they can go back and like earn their degree. So like if they didn't finish their degree the first time, if they want to get a master's degree or certificate program, like they have this educational benefit, because at some point the Olympics will end, like the training will end. And so like what's next? And so to help prepare them for what's next. And so we launched in April. And so this is it's a 5-year deal. So it's really for the LA 2028 games, like in the summer. So I'm really excited to go do that. So we actually had the opportunity, some of us, to kind of do like a scouting trip for the Paris games this past summer to kind of learn like how do brands activate during the Olympics.
Yeah.
There was an interesting stat that they said it's basically like the Olympic Games was essentially the equivalent of 7 or 17 Super Bowls going on. Oh, 7 is great. It's 7 Super Bowls per day for 17 days.
That's crazy.
Isn't that just like putting that, like, that's just
in perspective is nuts.
Just perspective is nuts. So we want to like how do brands take
That's why it only happens every 4 years.
Right, exactly.
Or 2 years.
Or winter and summer. Yeah. So we had the opportunity to go to Paris and kind of see what are some of the brands doing, how are they activating, how are they engaging with the athletes, like what can you do like for that content, and that's really done. So we were able to get like come back with some good learnings. We had a partner with an athlete, Rose Hollerman, who is a wheelchair basketball Paralympian. This is her 4th Olympics. They got the silver medal like this year for wheelchair basketball during the Paralympics. So it's for the Olympics and the Paralympics. So we're really excited to continue to build towards Milan for the 2026 games, and then LA 28. And we're gonna want to make a splash. And we'll hopefully have to be talking again about this in a few years.
I'm super excited to see what you guys do there.
Yeah.
You recently got promoted to Chief Marketing Officer of Purdue Global. What was expectation? I know it's been recent, but expectation versus reality of that role?
Yeah, so it's been very recent. I would say the expectation is how do we build a team? You know, how do we build like this marketing engine for Purdue Global, like using some of the learnings and the frameworks that we had from Purdue, and how do we apply those like to Purdue Global, like taking the best of both, right? And so that's like the expectation, kind of like how do we continue to build out like our measurement muscle? That's something that's been a little bit lacking on the Purdue Global side. Like our agency has really handled that. So like we want to build that up. And so now like it's a lot of learning, want to get the team in place, because as we were talking about earlier, that is so important to make sure that you have the right people
in the right places.
In the right places. So it's exciting, and like I like the opportunity to talk to individuals like yourself, and kind of talk about marketing and like what we're getting to do. But I think there's a lot of opportunity with Purdue Global. There's over 40 million Americans with some college credit and a degree, so the market is hugely, especially with the national conversation about like how can we continue to upskill like these individuals. So really excited to kind of continue to propel it.
And how do you plan to put your own touch on this role?
I think I just want us to continue. There's a clip from like the Tonys with Neil Patrick Harris where he's like, we're going bigger, like the opening of the Tonys. I don't know if you've seen this, but like we're going bigger. And I just want us to continue to think we're going bigger, but with impact, right? Like, so it's not just about doing like the next big thing, but doing the next big thing that like matters, was of value to our students and our customers.